Hello everyone, this is Finance 101 Excel in Excel, and we are now in module number 6. In this module, we're going to be learning how to create, sort, and query a table. So let's start by defining what a table is. A table is simply a database. It's a collection of rows and columns that are going to have data structure in a similar way in a workbook. So to give you an example, I could use my grading book here in this class as a table, right? It's an example of a table. In this example, I would enter each student as a different row in the table. So those are considered our records, right? Now the individual data that I have for each of you, for each record, are called fields. Examples of fields in my gradebook would be student name, the student ID, the student major, the module 1 grade, the module 2 grade, or even the final grade, right, at the end of the semester. So that would be a good example of data that I could put in Excel as a table. Now, there are several things that we can do with a table. We are, of course, going to learn how to add and delete records, how to edit the values on certain fields for a record. We're also going to learn how to sort our table. Maybe in my gradebook example, I want to sort by student name alphabetically, or I want to sort by student ID. Or perhaps I want to see the top performing students in my class, in which case I will need to sort by final grade, right? So in addition to sorting our Excel table, we're also going to learn how to display certain data that meets certain criteria. We're also going to learn how to determine subtotals or totals for particular fields, right? Specifically numeric fields. And finally, we'll learn how to analyze the data using several database functions. So we're going to concentrate on these 6 different tasks in this example. Now, let's take a look at our particular example that we're working with in this module. So in this example, we're working with a local bank that has several branches, and the management team puts together a monthly workbook with a summary of the different account managers. As you can see, we have the employee ID, the name of the employee, the branch in which that person works, the different types of accounts, and of course the value of the accounts, right? Whether it's a checking account, savings, investment account, or also the loans that are provided by that branch. We'll also have a supervisor rating and also information about the commissions that those managers are making on the loans. So figure 6.1a is what our output would look like. We're going to be given a table with raw data, and we're going to format it as a table so that it's very easy to edit, sort, and query. We're also going to create an output area where we're going to be using the VLOOKUP function and other database functions to find data, right, information that meets a certain criteria. We also want to create a chart called a tree map chart in this project that's going to look like this, right? Figure 6.1c. So be sure to look at those 3 figures so that you are familiar with what your output should look like once we are done with this project. It is also a really great idea to always explore or look at, right, the requirements document so that you are familiar with the data that you have, the calculations that you'll be making, and the output requirements. So be sure to look at figure 6.2 for that requirements document. This module is also providing us with table 6.1, which summarizes the different types of fields that we have, in which column they're located, the type of data, and also a brief description of each variable. And then finally, you always want to look at a sketch of what your workbook is going to look like. So figure 6.3a will show you a sketchbook of our main workbook it's going to look like. And then the 3b figure will show us the output area that we're going to create in this module. All right, so once we have a really good idea of our requirements document, we know we have a list of the decisions that we need to make, and we have an idea of what our output should look like, we are ready to start constructing our table. All right, so let's go ahead and start with formatting a range as a table, right? So we're going to follow the instructions. First says step 1, zoom to 110%. So using the bar on the bottom right corner of your spreadsheet, we're going to increase that to 100%. There we go. I have 110%, right? And then we're going to scroll down until cell A7 is at the top of the workspace, right? So we're going to have that title bank account managers at the very top of our worksheet, cell A7. Next, we're going to select range A8 to F20. So all our data, including that row 8 where we have our headers, right, the field headers. So once you have selected that, we can go to the Home tab in the Styles group. The one in the middle is Format as Table. Click in there. All right, and here we are specifically asked to choose a certain table style. Now, this is the easiest way to create a table. By using a pre-formatted table style, you can easily create a table, as I said, by selecting the range with the data that you need to use in creating the table, and then just applying that particular style. This will apply specific format to your columns, your rows, and a couple of other features that I'll show you in just a second. So the instructions are to select blue table style medium 14, which is going to be in this medium group. You want to go to row number 2, column 7. All right, so when you put your mouse over it, you can see that that's blue table style medium 14. I'm going to click on it. And then here, this launches the Create Table dialog box. Just check that the data that's in that box, cells A8 to F20, is correct. That's what we're selecting. And then also make sure that my table has headers box. It's checked. So make sure that there's a check mark in there and then press OK. All right, so click anywhere to deselect that data. And as you can see, we have our table. All right, so a couple of options here. One is to always select your data first and then create a table, or you can always just start by creating a table and then selecting the data that you want to put in it. All right, so let's take a look at our table. As you can see, we have it already nicely formatted. Our row 8 with the headers is in this nice blue color. We also have what's called banded rows. We have been banding our rows by adding different formats, different colors in this case, highlighted in different colors for different rows. So this specific format applies this darker shade of blue to every other row and the lighter shade of blue to every other row. This makes our data table a lot easier to read. Another important feature that I want you to notice is the buttons with the down arrows on each column, right, on each field. So if you click on it, you'll see that there are several options here to sort that data, and also we'll use this as the auto filter feature that we'll learn about later in this chapter, right? But I just wanted to point those cool features right now, as you're probably wondering what those are, right? All right, so let's go ahead and follow our next instruction. We want to wrap the text. We want to format our headers. So first, let's go ahead and change the width of column F to 13. So click on column F, right click, go to column width, and change that number to 13. Press OK. All right, so that reduced the size of that column. Next, we want to select cell F8. We want to change first the height of row 8. Right, so let's select row 8, right click, go to row height on that drop down menu, and we want to change that to a 30. Press OK. So that increased the size of that row. Now we want to select cell F8 where we have our supervisor review field. We can't really read it, so we want to wrap that text. Right, so click on that cell F8, and in the Home tab, in the alignment group, we want to select the wrap text option, right? And that is the one that looks like an ABC. So click on that, and now that wraps the text so we can read it clearly. All right, our next step is to name the table. So click anywhere on the table to select it. And as you can see, there is a new option here on our ribbon that's called Table Design, right? That appears when we select the table. So here, go ahead and click on that Table Design tab. Go to the far left. You'll see that on the first space here where we have the Properties group, there is a space to change the table name. So it's set to Table 2 right now, but we want to change that to Managers. So type the word Managers and then just press Enter. So now the table has been labeled Managers. Our next step is to remove duplicates. As you can see, I'm going to show you here, we have a field that has been entered twice. So this particular field for account 17208 for Javier Nunez has the same information, rows 16 and 17, right? We also have Javier Nunez in row 15, but that's a different account. The one that's duplicated is really row 16 and 17. So here it's easy to spot. I could just go ahead and delete that row. But if we have a big database and I just want to make sure that I don't have any duplicates, I'm going to click anywhere on that table to select it and make sure that you're on the table designed tab. And in the tools group, we're going to select remove duplicates. So I'm going to click on there. Make sure that you click on select all so that we're selecting all the columns. You can scroll down in that bar here to make sure that there are check marks on all of those columns. And then we're going to select, we're going to press on OK. All right, and it says one duplicate value was found and it was removed. So press OK. And now let's go ahead and check our data. As you can see now, one row with Javier Nunez has been deleted. That duplicate row has been deleted, right? Now, also, did you notice that Excel just changed the formatting of your rows? Before, if the formatting hadn't been changed automatically, I would have two rows in the same color, right? But the formatting of the table is automatically updated when I remove a certain record, or a row in this case. Let's see how we can enter some new rows or records in our table. So if we enter any information in an adjacent row or column to one of the existing columns or rows in the table, Excel will assume that we just want to add those fields to our table, and therefore it will assign the same format that we've given to the rest of the table to the new fields or records. So let's go ahead and select cell A20. And we're going to start entering the new entries below. We have 3 new rows that we want to enter. As I move from one cell to another one, I'm just going to press the tab key. So we want to start with 49103, press tab, and then the name is Quentin, Mark, press tab, and Avon, loans, and we want 4,429,507. Press tab, and the last number is 9. Notice here I press tab and it takes me to the next row, and it's already formatted for me. So the next one is 54319. Tab, the number is Trono, Maria. Tab, Plainfield, and notice that I just type P and it's already giving me a suggestion, Plainfield, as this is the branch that has already been used. So I can just press tab to accept that suggestion. And then we want CD, and again, as I enter CD, already made a suggestion, CD/money market, which is what we want. So press tab to move on to the next one. And the account value is 292,789. Tab. The supervisory review is 6.5. We'll press tab to move on to the last row. The number here, the employee ID is 70607. Tab. And the name is Zhang, C-H-Z-H-A-N-G, W-E-I. And the branch is Plainfield again. It's giving me that suggestion, so I accept it by pressing tab. And now we want IRA /SEP, accept that suggestion, and the value of the account is 265,111, and the last entry is 6.5. All right, so we're going to press anywhere here, make sure you're on the home tab, and press anywhere outside the table to deselect that. As you can see, the new rows have been formatted just like the rest of the table. So let's go ahead and now enter some new columns. Just like what happened with the rows, if we enter new columns that are adjacent to one of the existing columns, Excel is going to assume that we want to make those new columns part of the table, and it will assign the same formatting. So we're going to start by changing the column width of column G. So we're going to right click on it and go to column width. We want to change that to 13. All right, press OK. And then we want to click on cell G8. We're going to enter a new field name here, a new column header. We want to type the word rating. And then click enter, the enter button, the check mark, and the formula bar. And as you can see, it's all formatted. We even have that button with the drop-down menu. Next, we're going to change the width of column H. So click on it, right click, go to column width. We want to set it to 13. Press OK. And here we're going to enter the type. We're going to enter the name loan commission on cell H8. All right, press enter. And the instruction says, if necessary, click the wrap text button. So I can see it clearly, but let's go ahead and do that. So in the alignment group, in the home tab, we're going to press wrap text. And it looks like I can't see it worse than before. So I'm just going to press it again to keep it like that. I can see both words. And that's exactly how it looks in the project. So I want to make sure that I have loan on one line and commission on the next one. All right, next we're going to change the width of column 13. So same process, right click, column width, type 13, press OK. And this time in cell I8, we're going to type new money commission. Press enter, and it'll assign the same formatting. And again, we want to wrap the text. I think it's already wrapped. Let's see what happens when we wrap the text. Yeah, you see it kind of unwraps it. So I'm going to press the wrap text again so I can see new money in one line, commission in the next line. And I think we are done with that step. Next, we're going to work on formatting the title of our worksheet. So in the past, what we've done is usually we would take this title and use the merge and center button to kind of merge all of those cells and center that title right across that selection of cells. This time we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to center but without merging all the cells. So go ahead and select the range A7 to I7. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so that we are only showing that row 7. All right, so once you have selected that range A7 to I7, we're going to right click on that selected range. We're going to go to Format Cells, and in the alignment group, go ahead and press in the horizontal drop-down menu. And here we want to select Center Across that selection, Center Across Selection. All right, we're going to press OK. And as you can see now, the title is centered. And the only other thing that we need to do is adjust the height of that row. So click on that row, right click, row height. We want to change that to 30. Press OK. And also we want to change the font size of that cell A7. So let's go ahead and change it to font size 22. All right, there we go. Next, we're going to learn how to use a lookup table. So one of the fields in our table here, column F, as you can see, is a numerical value. This is a supervisory review. So what we may want to do is assign a corresponding rating instead, right? Like we're doing with grades in a class, for example, right? If the grade is 90 or above, we assign an A. From 80 to 89, we assign a B, and so on. We're going to do something similar in this example. Now, there are several functions in Excel that allow you to do this, that allow you to assign ratings to values that fall within a specific range. And if we enter that data, those ranges and the corresponding values in a separate area of our spreadsheet, we'll call that a table array. Now, if we use a lookup function to retrieve values from that table, then we call it a lookup table. There are a couple of functions in Excel that are widely used. One is called the HLOOKUP function, and the other one is called the VLOOKUP function. Now, what they have in common is that they both allow you to find a value in that table, in a table array, and retrieve a corresponding value and put it in the cell where you have entered your function. Now, what's different about them is that the HLOOKUP function, H stands for horizontal, and it is meant to be used for tables that are set up horizontally, right? So if you use the HLOOKUP function, Excel will search for a value on the top row of a table and then retrieve a value from the table and report it in the same column. In contrast with the VLOOKUP function, it works really well for tables that are set up vertically. So in that case, Excel will search for a value in a column, retrieve the corresponding value from the table, and report it in the same row. In this example, we're going to be using the VLOOKUP function, and that is the most commonly used as most tables are organized vertically. So let's take a look at our example. I'm going to go back to our MindTap instructions for a second so that we can see the table that we're going to be referring to. Table 6.3 is how the ratings are going to be determined, right? So if the supervisor review is anywhere from 0 to 6.99, we're going to assign a poor rating, from 7 to 7.99, a fair rating, from 8 to 8.99, a good rating, and from 9 and above, it will be an excellent rating. Another thing that we want to take a look is at the syntax of the VLOOKUP function, as you can see it here in this equation. So you can see 3 arguments. Those are the values that are in the parentheses of the function. And the first one, lookup value, refers to the specific value that we're looking for, right? The second argument in that syntax table array is that separate area on our spreadsheet where we're going to enter our table. It's going to look like this table that we just reviewed, table 6.3, right, with the different ranges and the corresponding return values. And then the last argument, column index number, refers to that specific column in that array, in that table array, that we want to return, right? In this case, the values that we want to return are the ratings, poor, fair, good, and excellent. So that will be column 2 in our table. So we're going to enter a 2 as the last argument of our VLOOKUP function. All right, so let's take a look at our example then. I'm going to go back to the Excel spreadsheet. So let's follow the instructions. We're going to use the VLOOKUP function here, but in order to do those, so we first need to create our table array, our lookup table. So we're going to create the table array in the ranges L1 to M6. So we're going to change the width of columns L and M to 14. Right, so let's select columns L and M, right click, column width, change it to 14 and press OK. Now we're going to click on cell L1 and type rating table. All right, and that's going to be the array, the table array title. We're going to click enter. And we want to change the font size to 18. So click on that cell again, change the font size to 18, and we're going to apply the bold formatting. All right, so all of that is to cell L1. Then we're going to select the range L1 to M1. L1 to M1. We're going to right click that selection. We're going to click on Format Cells. And in the alignment tab, so make sure that the first one is number, the second one is the alignment tab. In the horizontal box, click on that drop down menu, and here we want to center across selection. Right, so this is kind of equivalent to the merge or center, with the exception that we're not merging those cells, but we're just centering them. All right, so press OK, and that centers our selection. Now in cell L2, we're going to type review to enter that column heading. In cell M2, we're going to type rating, another column heading. We're going to select cell I8. And we're going to click the Format Painter button. So go to the Home tab in the Clipboard group. We're going to click on that icon that looks like a paintbrush. That's for Format Painter. What we're trying to do is copy the format of this cell to the new column headers that we just created. So click on it, and then the instruction says drag through cells L2 to M2. So we're going to drag it, and then just release your mouse. And as you can see, that formatting, that blue color has been assigned to those column headers. All right. Next, we're going to enter the data as shown in figure 617. So you go back to your instructions. We're going to go to table 617. All right, there it is. So we're going to assign these values and the corresponding ratings to this table, right? Notice that instead of using the ranges, we're just using the lowest value within that range, right? So if it's 0, it would be poor, 7, fair, 8, good, 9, excellent, right? Excel is really smart when doing this. Excel knows that we want the values within that range. So we don't have to enter the entire range. We just enter the lowest value within that range. So let's go ahead and enter those values. on our table. So we want on cell L3, we want to enter 0, and then 7, 8, and 9, right? That's in column L. In column M, we're going to enter the words poor, fair, good, and excellent. All right, so we are done with the table. Now we can go ahead and enter our VLOOKUP function. So let's go ahead and click on cell G9. That's where we're going to enter our ratings. And we're going to type equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses. We're going to select F9. So click on that cell because that's the rating. That's the value that we're searching for, right? It's a value of 10 in this case. So I click on that, or you can also just type the name of the cell, right? I'm going to delete that and I'm going to do it exactly as it is shown in the textbook. So I'm going to type cell F9, comma. Next, the second argument is our table array. So here you can go ahead and type the table array, or again, you can select it. I'm going to go ahead and select it just to save some work. So L3 to M6, right? All right, notice that those cells are now relative, but I want to make them absolute references, right? So I'm going to click right in front of L3 on my formula bar, and I'm going to press F4. That's going to put a $ in front of the L and in front of the 3. And I'm going to do the same with cell M6. I'm going to put my mouse right in front of the M, press F4. So now I have those two cells as absolute cells. Why do I want them absolute? Because I don't want those cells to move once I copy that formula down. Otherwise, I'm going to be looking at empty values, right? I want to refer to always that particular table. That's where my lookup values are. All right, so we're going to press comma for the last argument of our VLOOKUP function. And this is the number of the column where we have the ratings, right? The values that we want the Excel to return. So on our table array, that would be column M, and it's the second column in our table. So we're going to enter the value 2 for second column, and then close parentheses. All right, look what happens when I press enter. Excel is going to automatically fill that entire column. So this is the quality of tables in Excel. Once you enter a formula or a function in a particular row, Excel is going to fill that entire column for you. You don't have to use the fill handle or copy and paste that formula into the other rows. All right, so we are done with that step. Make sure, scroll down to make sure that all the rows have been filled in, and they have, so it looks good. We're ready to move on to the next step. We're now going to add some calculated fields to our table. So a calculated field or computational field is just a field or column in our table that can include either a function or formula, a regular reference, or structure reference, or even a condition. Now, when we create a computational or calculated field in our table in Excel, Excel will automatically fill in all the values for that particular column. So we won't have to use the fill handle or copy and paste that function to all the rows in our column. Now we're going to be working with 3 different calculated fields in our table. I'm going to go back to the instructions so that we can take a look at them. Now, as you can see, the first one is the rating in column G using the VLOOKUP function, and we have actually already completed that, right? Without knowing that it was called a calculated field, we have already completed that particular task. So we only have 2 more calculated fields to perform. Both of them are going to be done with if function. So the first one is a loan commission on column H, and the other one is the new money commission on column I. Now for the loan commission, we're going to use the following if function. If the type of account is a loan, then we're going to take the value of the account, or the value of the loan in that case, and we're going to multiply it by 0.0025. That's because the commission on loans that account managers earn is 0.25%. I'm going to click on that table to magnify it so we can see the new money commission in more detail. We're going to enter it in column I. We're going to use the if function again. This time, we want to look for account types that are not loans. So for any other type of account, we want to calculate the commission as the value of that account times 0.002, right? So 0.02%. So let's go back to Excel to start entering some of these functions. Now, when we use calculated fields in Excel, instead of using a regular cell reference, for example, the typicals that have a letter and a number, A15 or B17, etc., we can use something that is called a structure reference. And this just is the name of a column, as when we create a table, Excel automatically assigns names to each of the columns on the table, right? So instead of referring to regular cells, we'll be referring to this column names. That's what we call a structure reference. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that if a column header has a space in between words, then we want to put the name of that column in between square brackets in our syntax. So let's go ahead and take a look at our function. Our step 1 says click cell H9. And we're going to go to the Home tab, the number group. We want to select the accounting format. So that's the one with the $sign. So this will add a $sign and 2 decimal places to all the amounts that are going to be returned in this column. So next, let's go ahead and type the equal sign, and we're ready to type in our if function. Now here I mentioned that if you're looking at the hard copy of the textbook, this part of the textbook has not been updated with Office and Excel 365. So I'm going to show it to you how it's done, or how I would do it following the instructions exactly as they are on the hard copy of the textbook. And you'll see that we're going to get an error. And I'm going to show you how to fix that. Now, if you are following the instructions in your ebook, you have nothing to worry about. Everything in the ebook has been updated and corrected. The reason I want to show you this the incorrect way is though, so if later you're working with a different computer with a different version of Excel and you ever get this error message called a spill message, you'll know what to do. You'll know how to fix it. So we're going to type if, open round parentheses. Then when I type in the square parentheses, as you can see, I have a drop-down menu of all my structure reference that are available. These are all the column names that Excel has assigned to this table. So here we want to double click on specialty. Right? When I double click, now specialty is in my formula bar, right? If, open parentheses, open square parentheses, specialty. We want this specialty, which is the account type, to be equal to loans. So I'm going to type, I'm going to close that square parentheses. I'm going to type the equal sign, open quotation marks because it's text. Type the word loans, close quotation marks. And then I'm going to press or enter a comma. Now, in our if function, the first argument, what we just enter, is called the logical test. So this if function is going to work when the specialty or the account type is equal to loans. The next argument, the one that I'm going to type now, is the value that Excel will return if this logical test is true. So we want to return a commission, which is going to be a formula. It's going to be equal to the account value. So we want to type square parentheses, account space values, close that square bracket, and we're going to multiply that times 0.0025, and then comma. The last argument is the value of the logical test is false, and we want that to be a 0, right? So we're going to return a commission of 0.25% of the account value if the account type equals loans. Close your round parentheses, and look what happens when I press enter. All right, I get this spill error. So what does this mean? I wanted to show you this, as I said, in case it happens to you in a different computer or another point in your life. So what this means is that in Excel 365, we have incorporated what it's called a dynamic array. So when we use a structured reference, and in this case, we refer to the column specialty and the column account values. Excel assumes that you want the software to retrieve a value or to generate a value for every cell in that column, right? So there are over 1 million rows. It's going to generate values for each of those rows. Now my table starts in row 9, so if it generates that exact number of values for each row, the information is going to spill over the bottom edge of the worksheet, right? So that's what that spill error means. So we can easily fix this by adding an @ symbol to our structure references. The @ symbol, what it does is that it kind of disables that dynamic array function that it has been incorporated in Excel 365. So let's go ahead and click on that first function again, that first formula. We're just going to type the @ symbol in front of specialty. And then we're going to do the same with account value. Now, account value is already in brackets because it has a space. So we're going to have the square bracket, @ and then another square bracket, the square one, not the wiggly one. And then we want to close that second set of square brackets. All right, there we go. Let's see if it works. All right, there we go. So that now looks exactly like the outputs that we see on our table. As you can see, some of them have a dash. Those are the circumstances in which the account type is not a loan, right? So let's go ahead and do it for the new money commission now. So we're on column I, and we're going to click on cell I9 to select it. We're going to apply the accounting format again. So just like we did with column H. And now we're ready to start typing our formula. Now, if you're following the hard copy of the textbook, not only there's an error here because you need to add that @ sign, but also there is a typo in the formula, and you should just follow the instructions in the ebook in this case, right? The commission in the hard copy of the textbook is incorrect. So I'm just going to do it the correct way this time, since I already showed you what happens with the spell error, right? So we're going to type the equal sign, if, and we want open round parentheses, open square parentheses. This time, we're going to type @ and then specialty. We want to close that square bracket, make that equal to open quotation mark loans, close quotation mark, comma. All right, this time we want Excel to return a value, the value of the commission for account types that are not loans. So if this logical test is true, we want that return value to be a 0. If it's false, implying that the account type is anything other than loan, then we want Excel to calculate that commission. So here we're going to enter a square bracket, the @ symbol, another square bracket. We can just double click on account values, close that square bracket, close another square bracket, and we want to multiply that by the commission in this case, which is 0.0002. Let's press enter and let's double check our results. Looks like everything is correct. So let's now apply conditional formatting rules using an icon set. We have used conditional formatting before. You can use it to apply a certain format to a cell or group of cells if a certain criterion is met. For example, if a value is above a certain number, we want that cell to be highlighted in yellow. Or if the number is a negative number, it's below 0, we want it to be highlighted in red. We can also use conditional formatting to add icons to specific cells. In this case, we're going to do it for the rating column. And as we have 4 groups, right, fair, good, excellent, and poor, we want to make sure that the icon set that we choose has 4 different options. Now, these icon sets could be anything from traffic signs or arrows, circles, etc. So let's go ahead and start with step number 1. We're going to select the range F9 to F22. So our column where we have our supervisor ratings. And next we want to go to the Home tab and click on Conditional Formatting. So this will display the conditional formatting gallery. Here we want to click on New Rule. And we're going to click the Format Style button. And we have several options here: 2-color scale, 3-color scale, data bar, or icon set. So we're going to select icon sets. And next, we're going to click on the icon style arrow to display the different options. As you can see, as I mentioned here, you can choose arrows, circles, traffic signs, etc. we want to select the 4 traffic lights icon style, as we have 4 different groups. So there we go. We want the one with black, red, yellow, and green, right? So let's go ahead and select that. Next, under the first type button on the right hand side, we want to click on that drop down menu and change it to number. The second one also we're going to change to number, and then the third one the same, we're going to change it to number. And we want to type on the value fields, we want to type the value of 9, an 8 in the second one, and a 7 in the last one, right? So we're assigning those same ranges for each of the different colors for those icons. So next we can go ahead and press OK, right? And that has assigned icons to each of the rows in that column. You can quickly double check them, make sure that they are correct. All right, so let's go ahead and now work on adding or inserting total rows. So click anywhere in the table to display the table design tab, and click on that table design tab. We're going to click the total row checkbox in the table tools design tab, the table style options. So here you can experiment by checking different boxes, but just make sure that once you finish experimenting, you only have 3 selected: header row, banded rows, and filter buttons, right? Those are the ones that were pre-selected based on the table style that we chose. But this time, we want to click on the total row checkbox. So as you can see now, we've added at the bottom of the table a row 23 with the total header and also the total new money commission on the last column, right? 1446.41. Next, we're going to select cell E23. So select that cell, and as you can see, we have a little drop down menu, an arrow where we can click. So click on that, and we want to select the sum function here. So we're going to be adding all of those account values, 17,432,838.00. So it looks good. So we're just totaling the total value of those accounts. We're going to repeat the process to create an average in cell F23. So click on cell F23, the supervisor review. We're going to click on that arrow, and this time we want to select average. All right, we get 8.39 approximately. We want to format that number to make sure that we only see 2 decimal places. So I can go to the home tab and use the decrease decimal icon to reduce the number of decimal places to 2. So we get an average of 8.39. Check your answers to make sure that they're correct. And we're going to repeat the process to create a sum in cell H23. So we're going to add the loan commission this time. Click on that cell, click on the drop down menu, and we want to select this sum function. So we get 25,501.99. All right, we can go ahead and take a break at this point. So make sure you save your work. You can use the shortcut Control S, and I'll see you in the second part of the video.